Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So I just want to share with you some facts from literature. What I'm going to tell you are facts. The conclusions I'm going to draw probably aren't, but I'll leave that up to you. They say, this was back when I was in medical school, that the average attention span of an adult is, how long do you think it is? Huh? 10 minutes. How long have we been here for? Yeah, ready to go. Keep you a little longer, inshallah. Yeah, about 8 minutes. All right, the average attention span for an adult is about 8 minutes. Now, they also say that during a lecture, a member of the audience is only actively listening for how long? 25% of the time. 25%. Okay? So if you take 25% of 8 minutes, how much do you get? 2 minutes. I ain't done yet. Now my lecture is 25 minutes, all right? So how many 8-minute blocks are in 25 minutes? 3, right? So that means 25% of 8 minutes is 2, and we got 3 8-minute blocks. We got 6 minutes to work with, all right? Now, when you hear what someone else says, how much of it do you interpret accurately? You know the telephone game? About 2/3. So from the 6 minutes, I'm now down to the Charlotte Public School system. MashaAllah. How's that? 4 minutes. All right, here we go. 4 minutes. Now tomorrow, what time is it right now? 7 o'clock. Tomorrow at 7 o'clock, inshallah, we are all alive and healthy. How much do you remember 24 hours after sitting through a lecture? Who remembers the Jummah khutbah 2 days ago? 10%. So from the 4 minutes, 240 seconds, I got 10% of that. I got 24 seconds to work with. Bismillah. So what I need from you guys is some strong, active listening. All right? Get your minds in it, inshallah. Your minds are focused. You know, my wife, she once asked me a question that we all dread, brothers. I was on my phone, and she's talking to me, and I'm on my phone, whatever I'm doing, whatever, and then she says, "What did I just say?" But in the ER, I work in the ER. In the ER, you have to become really good at multitasking because your mind is always being pulled in 100 different directions. So I was listening to what she was saying while I was doing whatever I was doing. So I told her everything that she just said, word by word. I dropped it back, and I just felt, it's like, oh yeah, right? And then she puts me in check. You know what she says? She mentions a verse in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ قَالُوا سَمِعْنَا وَهُمْ لَا يَسْمَعُونَ. She said, and don't be like the people who they say they listened, but they didn't really listen. So I want you guys to be like the people who say they listen, but they actually listen, inshallah. The brother's saying, no, I didn't listen. I want you to listen, okay? I want you to listen. So when she said that, by the way, I was like, I stood up and I gave her a hug. I said, there's no response to that, mashallah. But I did get her back. We were sitting at dinner, and she's like, how's the food? I said, alhamdulillah, it's amazing. It's really good. And you know, the problem is, brothers, we can't win. The problem is, you know the whole concept of white lies? And you know, sometimes if it's for the sisters are looking at each other like, yeah. when we're with our spouses, we're allowed to, you know, embellish a little bit for the sake of the relationship. So she's like, no, I want the truth. So if I say it's not good, I'm in trouble. If I say it's good, I'm not telling the truth. I said, no, it's really good. She's like, no, I want the truth. So then I said, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, la tas'alu an ashya'a in tubda lakum tasukkum. I quoted to her the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, oh, you who believe, do not ask about things that if you are told the answer, it will make you sad. So we settled it there, 1-1. Anyways, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. I got 20 minutes, inshallah. I want your active listening, inshallah. My topic with you today, I want to share with you is this idea that Islam is a backwards religion. Right? We look around the world. We look around the Muslim world, and we look around the world, even Muslims here in America. We look around and we see that the Muslims are weak. The Muslims are oppressed. We see Muslim lands that are being ruled by oppressors, that the resources are being taken away from the people. We see the economy is suffering. We see war. We see poverty. The pictures that we see, the fundraisings that we always have to attend because of what's going on around the world. We see the Muslim community here in America. And what happens, a narrative begins to develop. And that narrative is that the problem, what's the one item that's connecting all these people? Whether they be in China, or they be in America, or they be in Yemen, or they be in Syria. What's the one thing that unites them all? It's Islam. And therefore, the problem must be Islam. And you have these experts, quote unquote experts, who are brought onto Fox News and CNN and all sorts of media stations, and they preach these things. And we've come up with the term Islamophobia, that they spread Islamophobia amongst the people, right? But these narratives start to become internalized by ourselves. We start to internalize them as well. We're fed them so often that we start to internalize them as well. One thing I want to just pause and point out is that who is the number one target of Islamophobia? Who is it? It's actually Muslims. They don't celebrate when Joe Smo down the street puts up a sign outside of his house, yeah, send all Muslims back to wherever they came from. They don't celebrate him. He's not given time on CNN. He's not given time on Fox News. He's not given a TV show or a slot in the radio or a book deal. But if a brother by the name of Abdullah Ahmed comes out and says, yeah, these Muslims, they actually are backwards, he's postered everywhere. He's given his book deal. He's given his TV's time and his radio time. Why? Because you and I have to understand that there's a battle of the minds, and you and I are the number one targets of that. Because if you want to cut a tree, where do you go? You go from its roots. You go from its roots. So we've started to internalize this idea as well that Muslims actually, we are backwards. That our religion is somehow to blame for the situation that we're in. And so I want to share with you some thoughts on that. Number one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in Surah An-Nur, Surah number 24, verse 55, He says, وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنكُمْ وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَيَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كَمَا اسْتَخْلَفَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ وَلَيُمَكِّنَنَّ لَهُمْ دِينَهُمُ الَّذِي ارْتَضَىٰ لَهُمْ وَلَيُبَدِّلَنَّهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ خَوْفِهِمْ أَمْنًا إلى آخر الآية. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Allah has promised for those who believe amongst you and those who do righteous deeds, لَيَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will surely grant them succession of authority in the land. Just like He did to the people before them, and He will establish for them therein their religion, which He has preferred and chosen for them. And He will replace after their fear, peace and security. So Allah has promised that He will give those who believe amongst us and do righteous deeds, that they will be given authority in the land. And so you see that Iman, faith, and doing good deeds is the requirements. Because Allah's promise is true. There's no doubt about that. Allah's promise is true. But the equation, the part that we have to fulfill is the faith and the doing of good deeds. So it's like a cause and effect relationship. The cause is Islam, the cause is faith, and coupled with faith is what comes in the heart and what the actions testify to. So the cause is Islam, the effect is advancement. Because how can you be given authority in the land if you haven't advanced as a society? Now here's what's interesting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَاي وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Say my prayers are for Allah. But also what? My sacrifices are for Allah. The whole essence of my life is for Allah. And even my death is for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. Everything we do is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why we find in another verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَابْتَغِ فِي مَا آتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. And seek with what Allah has given you the home of the hereafter. With what we've been given, our health, our time, our wealth, our skills, our innate abilities. Whatever it is that we have, we're told to use that to seek the home of the hereafter. But then Allah says something very important. And don't forget your portion of this world. وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا أي لَكَ نَصِيبٌ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. Don't forget your portion of this world, meaning you have a portion of this world. You have a portion of this world. Islam isn't a religion of monasticism. Islam doesn't ask you to live on top of a mountain somewhere, shun people, shun the world, shun technology, shun everything else, and sit there and just worship and pray all day, all night. Islam doesn't do that. You know, one time, Ka'b ibn Ujr, anhu, he narrates a beautiful hadith that's recorded in Imam al-Tabarani reports. That he says, مَرَّ عَلَى النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم رَجُلٌ, a man passed by the Messenger of Allah. فَرَأَى أَصْحَابُ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم مِنْ جَلَدِهِ وَنَشَاطِهِ. So that a man passed by the Messenger of Allah and the companions. And the companions saw he was doing work. He was earning a living. But they saw from him and his action strength and energy and passion. They saw so much potential in this person. Have you ever seen someone in the masjid or someone in your community, a friend, a family member, and you say, this guy has so much potential. If he only just used it in the right way. The Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of Allah, لو كان هذا في سبيل الله, that this person, his strength and his passion and his zeal and his skill sets, if only it was used in the path of Allah. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said in response, إن كان خرج يسعى على ولده صغارا فهو في سبيل الله. If this person came out of his home to earn a living so that he can support his children, then he actually is in the path of Allah. And he says, وَإِن كَانَ خَرَجَ يَسْعَى عَلَى أَبَوَيْنِ شَيْخَيْنِ كَبِيرَيْنِ فَهُوَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Or if he came out to support his parents who are old in age, then he is also in the path of Allah. And then he says, وَإِن كَانَ خَرَجَ يَسْعَى عَلَى نَفْسِهِ يَعِفُّهَا فَهُوَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And if he has come out to earn a living for himself, so that he may be self-sufficient, so that he may not be dependent on others, then that is also in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he says, وَإِن كَانَ خَرَجَ يَسْعَى رِيَاءً وَمُفَاخَرَةً فَهُوَ فِي سَبِيلِ الشَّيْطَانِ. But if he came out to show off and to boast of his strength, then that's in the path of shaitan. Now let me ask you a question. Why do you and I work? Why do you go every day? Maybe you're working 2 jobs or 3 jobs. Why are you doing what you do? You only work for one of these 3 reasons. To support your family, your children, your spouse, to support your parents, or to support yourself, to become self-sufficient. Now, what does the hadith say? If you do that, فَهُوَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, then that action, that job of yours, every second you're spending is fi sabilillah, in the path of Allah. What does that mean, in the path of Allah? Ay laka ajr. That you get reward for that. For every moment, you are getting a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if someone comes to you and he says, for example, I want nothing of this dunya. My focus is akhirah. I want Jannah. I want nothing of this world. You would tell him in response that if you want akhirah, then Islam commands you to work in this world so that not that you can establish this world, so that you can establish your akhirah. If you want your akhirah, you have to work in this world to get to that akhirah. So Islam calls us to do that. Now, you have to understand, this takes us to some basics we have to define. What is the definition of ibadah? Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, al-ibadah ismun jami'. The concept of worship, of ibadah, is a comprehensive idea. It's a comprehensive term. لِكُلِّ مَا يُحِبُّهُ اللَّهُ وَيَرْضَاهُ. For everything that Allah loves and is pleasing to Allah, مِنَ الْأَقْوَالِ وَالْأَفْعَالِ, from what you say and from what you do, الظَّاهِرَ وَالْبَاطِنَ, both open and hidden. So brother, if you spend your day working and then on your way home you stop by, Walmart and you pick up a doll for your daughter that you know she likes. And you come home and your daughter, 4 years old, is there waiting for you, greeting you at the door, and comes running into your arms and says, Salam, Baba, I love you. And then you take out your surprise for her and you give it to her. And you see the excitement on her face. And her smile just light up and it melts your heart. And she gives you another hug and says, I love you, Baba. Thank you so much. There perhaps is no other joy that equals that joy of your child in your arms, embracing you, telling you that she loves you. Every moment of that picture, that scene, is a moment that you're getting reward from Allah. We've come to think of worship as something that has to be difficult, that has to involve pain or sacrifice, or has to involve suffering. No. Islam is a comprehensive religion, and there's no religion like this. There's no religion that you'll get rewarded. A brother is working in his mechanic shop. It's 30 degrees outside, it's cold, and he's underneath the car. The grease is falling onto his clothes, and he's struggling to get a bolt and break it off, and it's all rusted, and he's struggling through that. Every moment of that action is actually rewarded. It's actually worship. Now, if that's the case, then this, by definition, has to lead to advancement of society. Because you have to understand another thing. Let's pause for a second and understand another concept that we have ingrained within us as Muslims. The Prophet ﷺ, he says in an authentic hadith in Sahih Muslim, إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَتَبَ الْإِحْسَانَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. Allah has commanded for you that anything that you do, be it you're a plumber, be it that you're a teacher, be it that you're a physician, be it that you're an engineer, be it whatever it is, you do it well. You do it with excellence. Meaning you get to the nuts and bolts, you understand it, you master it, you seek to advance. That's what Allah wants from you. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, in an authentic hadith, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ إِذَا عَمِلَ أَحَدُكُمْ عَمَلًا أَنْ يُتْقِنَهُ. That Allah loves when you do anything, whatever it is. Maybe you're building a sandcastle with your son on the beach on vacation. But Allah, when you're doing that, He wants that time you're spending with your son to be time of excellence. Spend that time properly. Everything you do, He wants to be excellent. Now, if that's the case, now everything that we do will by definition lead to advancements. That's how society functions. That's how communities thrive. That's how you get more successful in your business or more successful in your profession. Allah asks you to work. Allah wants you to work. But when you work, He wants you to do it right. And if you're going to do it right, by definition, you're going to be the best at it. Or going to try to be the best at it. And when you do that, you're now making advancements in every single field that you find yourself in. Now, there's a hadith that's fascinating, where Allah shows the merging of ibadat and earning your living. The Prophet ﷺ, he said in a hadith, he says, يَعْجَبُ رَبُّكَ مِنْ رَاعِ غَنَمٍ فِي رَأْسِ شَظِيَّةٍ لِلْجَبَلِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is impressed by a shepherd who is on the peak of a mountain with his flock. And then he says, يُؤَذِّنُ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَيُصَلِّي فَيَقُولُ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. And so this man, the time for prayer comes, and so the man, he's with his animals, he's doing his job. That's his profession, is to be a shepherd. That's his profession. And the time for salah comes, and so he stands up, he calls the adhan, and then he prays. Now the hadith says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says to this person, he says about this person, "Unzuru ila abdi hadha." Oh my angels, look to this slave of mine. يُؤَذِّن وَيُقِيمُ الصَّلَاةِ وَيَخَافُ مِنِّي. He has called the adhan for prayer, and he has prayed, and he fears me. He says what? قَدْ غَفَرْتُ لِعَبْدِي وَأَدْخَلْتُهُ الْجَنَّةِ. I have forgiven him, and I have granted him paradise. What's strange about this hadith? What's the man doing? He's a shepherd. But what is that? That's his profession. That's his way of earning a living. That's what his job is. Is it strange if you as a teacher, or you as an engineer, or you as a doctor, or you as a mechanic, or whatever it is your profession is, when Salatul Dhuhr comes in, you take 5 minutes and you go and you pray? Is that something strange? Are you impressed by that? It's not. We don't really, that's what we should be, that's what we do. That's what we do. It's not something terribly impressive, but what did the Prophet say about Allah? يَعْجَبُ رَبُّكَ. Allah is impressed by this. You and I every day, we leave what we're doing from our profession to pray 5 times, to pray the prayers that we're working through. Dhuhr and Asr, maybe Maghrib. If you're working the night shift, Isha or Fajr. Isn't that beautiful? Perhaps Allah is impressed with you that despite not just being alone in the mountain, perhaps you're in an environment of non-Muslims. You're in an environment where it's difficult to pray, where people, you have fear of consequences, or maybe your boss, he doesn't like Muslims, but you still pray. What's the reward of that? If one prayer had this man's sins forgiven and granted paradise, being alone in the mountains, what about you in front of your co-workers? It's time for me to pray. Allahu Akbar. So Allah wants you to work. But when you're working, as you're getting your reward of that, you also take care of your prescribed duties. Now, the Prophet ﷺ, he says in an authentic hadith in Bukhari and Muslim, مَا مِن مُسْلِمٍ يَغْرِسُ غَرْسًا أَوْ يَزْرَعُ زَرْعًا. He says, there's no Muslim who plants a tree or cultivates the land. فَيَأْكُلُ مِنْهُ طَيْرٌ أَوْ إِنسَانٌ أَوْ بَهِيمَ إِلَّا كَانَ لَهُ بِهِ صَدَقَةٌ. That except that a person eats from it, or a bird eats from it, or any animal eats from it, except that he gets a reward. Now, when you're cultivating the land, the people of Medina were farmers. When they're cultivating, they're doing their job. They're working, they're earning a living, they're providing for themselves and their family. The Prophet's saying when you do that, you're getting the reward if the animal eats from it, a human eats from it, any creation eats from it. You're getting a reward for that. So you tell someone, I only want akhirah, I want Jannah. Say, you know what? Go ahead and plant a field of apple trees. And what does that do? That stimulates the economy. You have to hire people to do that. You have to have irrigation for that. You have to have a professional farmer, a professional, who knows the soil. You have to have all these components in place. And then the fruits of that now are feeding society. are feeding the creation that Allah has created. And every moment of that is a reward from Allah. And now you say, you know what, I have 100 apple trees, maybe I want 300. And you know what, because you want to do it well, you get rewarded for that as well. And you keep advancing for your akhirah. That's the amazing thing. This is for your Jannah. But by definition, you're establishing this world as well. At the same time, you're establishing your akhirah. It's a beautiful concept. How can someone say Islam is backwards? How can you say that? When this is the philosophy of our religion, that ibadah and dunya are coupled together with the right intention. How can you say that Islam is backward? And that's why you see the Muslim societies of the past. Go to Muslim Spain and see what they accomplished. You see, in the time of Al-Khattab, you couldn't find even one poor person. And once they got to that level, when the wealth was spread amongst the community and there was no more poor people, then they set up what's called awqaf, endowments, that they would self-sustain and run different organizations. And just to know our history as we wrap up, we had endowments for publishing books. There wasn't a printing press, but for handwritten, hiring someone to write books so it could be spread knowledge to the people. We had endowments for sick cats. For sick cats. What about hospitals? The first hospitals of the world were in the Muslim lands. If you couldn't afford your health care, you got it for free. And when you left the hospital, if you survived and you left the hospital, you were given a stipend to get back on your feet. This is what Islam did. We have something amazing to offer to society. We have a system of life, a philosophy of life that will bring justice and bring mercy and compassion and bring all sorts of khair and goodness to society. This is our Islam. I'll end my talk with a beautiful hadith, which the Prophet ﷺ, he says, in qamat as-sa'ah, if the day of judgment starts, وَفِي يَدِ أَحَدِكُمْ فَسِيلَةٌ, and in one of your hands is a seedling for a palm tree, the seed of a palm tree. The day of judgment has started. The skies are ripping open. The oceans are catching fire. The mountains are crumbling like cotton. You're seeing this. And in your hand is the seed of a date palm tree. Prophet says, فَإِنِ اسْتَطَاعَ أَلَّا تَقُومَ حَتَّى يَغْرِسْهَا فَلْيَغْرِسْهَا. If you're able to plant that seed before the day of judgment takes over the earth, then do so. Investing in this world, not worrying what's going to happen if that investment will ever bear fruit or not. You're going to do your part. Stimulate the growth of society, the growth of the economy, and most importantly, the growth of not your bank account, which will happen, but the growth of your ajr accounts. So on the day of judgment, you come and you find a palace waiting for you for all that you did in this world. Islam is a beautiful religion. وأقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.